Adam here from the Walzer Automotive Group, and what I want to do today is take you on a test drive. So next to me here, I have a 2025 GMC Yukon. We'll look at the interior, exterior, some of the trim level specifics, then go for a spin around, see what it's like out on the road. Okay, so now we're behind the wheel of the 25 GMC Yukon, and this is the AT4 trim level, and this one is also the XL. So you've kind of got what we refer to as the shorty, and then the XL, which is going to be the longer wheelbase, a little bit more space inside and out, but it's a pretty cool machine. Now, big changes for 2025 come in the way of some cosmetic updates. Up front, you're going to notice that restyled front fascia, as well as the new headlight design. The taillights are also super cool. When you kind of lock or unlock the vehicle, the lights do this little dance sequence. It sounds gimmicky, but it's actually kind of fun, and I really enjoyed it. Now, outside of that, you can also do some new flashy 24-inch wheels, depending on which trim level you're looking at, and there's also going to be an AT4 Ultimate. So that would be even more equipment on top of this one. That's going to blend some more kind of luxury into the off-road aspect of the GMC Yukon. Now, some other things that we really like, the GM night vision can be added into some of these different trim levels with a thermal object detection. So while this particular one doesn't have that, it's a pretty cool feature, especially can keep you safe at night, whether it's deer on the road or anything else like that. Now, one other big change would be the powertrain updates. So this is going to be the 3-liter diesel. Now, the diesel is going to be the Duramax, and it's going to get a little bit more power for the 2025 model year. So we'll touch on that in a little bit, as well as the 2 different V8 options. But for now, let's put it in drive. We'll go for a spin around. So what makes the AT4 model different? Now, this has a 2-speed transfer case. I think it's a 275 Goodyear Wrangler tire. So it's a nice, quiet on-road tire for most of the time. But if you need to air them down a little bit, whether you're hitting the trail, cruising around off-road, that is pretty cool. And this also does get air suspension. So when you put it down into 4 low, you can actually bump up the ride about another 2 inches elevated higher. So that's pretty cool if you are kind of maybe going off into some sand, some off-road, maybe going to a cool campsite. This AT4 model definitely can help you out there with the optional air suspension. Back to the engine options. So we've got our standard GMC and kind of Chevrolet mixed V8s. So we've got a 5.3, you've got the 6.2, which is going to be the V8, and then we've got this inline 3-liter diesel. Now, what's cool about the diesel, this one has 305 horsepower, and that's also going to be 495 foot-pounds of torque. That's up from 277 from last year horsepower-wise and 460. Now, all of these GMCs are also going to be paired with a 10-speed automatic. Buttery smooth out on the road. I love this transmission that GMC has gone with. You barely even notice anything at all unless maybe you're towing something pretty heavy that it's even changing gears. Now, the Yukon's ride and drive will be a little bit better, you might notice, for some of the newer models. That's because it's now got an independent rear suspension, and previous solid rear axle setups have gone away. It's immediately more noticeable. It drives more like one of the smaller GMCs in the lineup. Even though this XL is pretty big on the road, it's definitely more comfortable and very much noticeable almost immediately. Now, the drive and the ride dynamics, I mean, if you were looking for a little bit better fuel economy, the diesel would definitely be the one to go. So this one's going to be rated at 24 mpg on the highway, but as someone who spent some time behind the wheel of these diesels, I have gotten some pretty good mileage. I mean, if you're just cruising around in 2-wheel drive, it's pretty impressive for a vehicle of this size just how great of mileage you can get when all things are considered. Now, depending on if you're thinking about doing a little bit of towing, the 2-wheel drive versus the 4-wheel drive, there's a few different towing setups. If you're looking for the max possible towing, that's going to be 8,400 pounds. Now, that's going to be on the 5.3 V8. As you move up to the 4-wheel drive, I think you sacrifice about 200 pounds of towing, depending on the 2-wheel versus the 4-wheel, and the diesel that we have here is going to be capable of towing about 8,200 pounds. So there's a lot of great stuff with these vehicles. Now, one big thing for me in this AT4 is the midnight pine color. And then on the interior, it's called Forest Storm. Yes, again, it might sound a little bit gimmicky, but man, is it cool. This exterior in the midnight pine just fits the AT4 so well, with kind of that silver and black wheel design that runs on the outside. Does look really cool, and I pulled up this morning and I was very excited to hop into this vehicle because it does just look stunning in person. This color fits so perfectly. I think GMC nailed it on this one, and I think it would definitely be the way I would option mine, especially with this diesel. It's really quiet in here. It's so comfortable behind the wheel, and then you put your foot down and you get a little bit of that diesel wind up, but I mean, 495 foot-pounds of torque is a lot, and this thing gets moving. Now, if we're looking at the exterior, whether it's just you or the family in the vehicle, you do have a power liftgate out back. And as well, one thing I always love about the Yukons is that you can still split that rear glass open. So if you're just looking to throw something in or you're just moving stuff around, you don't have to pop the whole tailgate open, which is pretty convenient. Then once you're in the back with the third row up, this still has enough room for 6 rolling airline bags. So the XL is pretty big back there. And then what's really cool even above that, this does have power folding seats. So you just click a button for that third row, it will fold the third row down as well as back up, and you can even click and then it's going to knock down the second row. You click again and then it's going to flip that second row forward. It's basically like having a 1500 pickup because there's so much room back there. It's insane just how much space is in the XL. And now, it's one thing to note that there is a few different seating options. So with the bench seat, that would give you 8 passenger capability. With this one, like we have here with the captain's chairs, obviously you drop one out, so it goes down to 7 passenger. But in the third row, the difference to me between maybe like the Yukon and the Yukon XL is like when you're on maybe a Delta flight and you go from the main cabin to Comfort Plus, that's kind of how I feel. I had lots of room back there. I'm 6'1". I could easily do a road trip in that third row and not be super cramped for space. And then if I wanted to get really comfortable, I'd bump up to the second row because that has some pretty cool equipment. Now this one also gets the rear entertainment setup, which is pretty sweet. So that's going to basically give you screens for the kiddos to not be maybe making a bunch of noise back there. There's HDMI plugins. You can even do a web browser back there. So there's a lot of pretty cool stuff to keep them busy. Plus standard household plug, USB charging, and the second row is also going to be heated. Not to mention we've also got USB-C plugs in the third row. So if they're bringing their friends with, everybody's going to be charged up and happy. Speaking of charged up and happy, in the driver's seat, I am very happy here. So I've got my cell phone with me as we always do. I've got it right down here on the wireless charging. And now we have this new huge infotainment display that's going to give you wireless Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto. Now this is a 16.8-inch display. The camera doesn't really even do it justice, but when you've got the CarPlay on here, you've got all your icons pretty much on one screen, whether that's text messaging, Google Maps, Spotify, it's all built into here and really easy. Now another thing that's pretty sweet, you can actually go through, use Google Maps. Google Assistant is built into here, so you can say Walser Buick GMC Roseville. It's going to give you directions on the map as well as on the digital gauge cluster, so your attention is focused on the road ahead and you're not messing with your phone when you're on the go, which is really nice. Now, there is a ton of safety built into these vehicles. You can go into the vehicle and then into your safety settings. The collision and detection systems in the vehicle are very impressive. Now, this one's also optioned with the available Super Cruise, so if you want to do hands-free driving on the road, you can absolutely do that as well. But I mean, blind spot monitoring, emergency crash notifications, there's even bicyclist alert. Even when I was filming, if someone was walking around the vehicle when it was just on, it would give you a notification in the digital gauge cluster. So there's a lot of safety to help keep you and your family safe when you're on the move. In that digital gauge cluster, there's a little button here on the steering wheel. You can go through and look at a couple different map menus. You can also look at your adaptive cruise control. You can kind of pretty much configure that to show you your pertinent information or whatever you'd like to see in there. That is very sweet, and it does work very seamlessly with everything kind of combined in the vehicle. Now, this is also a leather-wrapped heated steering wheel. If you haven't had a heated steering wheel to tackle those Minnesota winters, so this is also paired with a remote start on the key fob, so that will actually turn on the heated or ventilated seats when you fire the vehicle up. It's pretty nice. Now on the other side, you've got like some low range and then the Super Cruise buttons on there, and then you also do get paddle shifters for that 10-speed automatic. So one thing a little different now in the Yukon, up here is going to be your shifter, so that does free up a lot of space, like I said, for the wireless charging. The cup holders are really nice, and then you get this super convenient storage setup here, so you got lots of room to put whatever you want into the center armrest. Now on the left side, that's where you've got a bunch of stuff going on. So like I said, this one does have the air suspension, so you can click the button here and kind of dial it in. There's 4 different settings you can use. Like I said, you got to be in 4 low to really boost it up in the air, but then you've also got some drive modes. So you can do a sport or that towing mode. So this also has the built-in brake controller. So if you're towing the boat to the lake, you got an enclosed trailer, utility trailer, whatever that might be, you have that brake controller, and then also a trailering menu. So you can program a guest trailer or set your boat up into here. And if you're maybe not the best at backing your boat into the lake, I know it's a little bit of an intense situation sometimes, there's boat ramp assist, which is pretty cool. So that can also help you out getting that boat backed in a hurry. If you've ever done it, you know it's not fun, so that's pretty awesome. Now, one thing that I turned on when I got in the vehicle is the blinker camera. Because this is the Yukon XL, it's huge. I know I said it doesn't drive like a huge vehicle, but it still is a pretty large vehicle on the road. So having the blinker camera, whether that's when you're trailering or just driving around, that pulls up the infotainment screen to show either the left or the right side. And then the backup camera in here is insane. You can look all the way around the vehicle, you can see everything, and you can also click a little button on the side over here. That will pull up the camera. I'm still going about 20 miles an hour, and that's gonna let me see what's going on around me. If there's cones, kids left stuff out in the driveway, that's a pretty sweet feature there as well. Now, this one does also have, like I said, that 2-speed transfer case, but it's got the 4x4, so you can set it to be 4 high, 4 low, or just the auto mode, so you don't have to think about it when the winter comes back around. And then we've also got a heads-up display, so that's gonna show me the speed limit, show me that I'm definitely not speeding on this road and that I shouldn't slow down a little bit. But for the most part, it's pretty convenient to have all that information to, like I said, be avoiding your phone or looking around when you're driving. That's a lot of information very quickly. What did we learn about the AT4? We like it. The ride is comfortable. The steering is like the perfect amount of heavy and light combined. The seats are so comfortable, and the exterior, I mean, it looks really good. I think the AT4 in this Midnight Pine would be the one I would go for. I love the diesel option. I don't think you're really sacrificing a lot by not going with the 6.2 unless you need just that little bit more towing, but really, there's so much to like. This has kind of always been like one of the gold standards as far as third row SUVs. Everybody compares it to a Suburban, a Yukon, a Tahoe, because these really do it all, and they give you so much room. If you're loading up the kids, going for a cabin weekend, you don't have to worry about leaving something at home because you can bring all your stuff with you. There's plenty of space in the back, or you can fold the seats down, put a roof box up above, and you can look cool while you're doing it because this thing looks pretty sweet. So we do have to touch on price. Now, this being a luxury third row vehicle, it's gonna start around the $70,000 price range. And I know this one is expensive. This one's gonna come in around $93,000 with all the equipment. This has that $12,000 package for the premium package. So yes, before you go off on the comments, I understand that is a lot of money, but this is a lot of vehicle. You're getting a ton of equipment in here, whether it's the Super Cruise air suspension, the diesel engine, the cool color. I mean, there's so much stuff in these vehicles. And yes, it's a pretty competitive segment. These third row SUVs are not cheap, but they do give you a lot of pretty cool tech, safety, and style. So definitely something to consider there. But yes, there's a good amount of value for the price. So if you're in the market, maybe you're looking at Honda, Toyota, some of the other GM vehicles, I think the Yukon is absolutely one to add to the list to come out and take for a spin and see what you think. Now that was just a quick look and drive at the 2025 GMC Yukon. Now if you have any other questions or you'd like to schedule a test drive, you can visit us online at walser.com or stop by anytime. We'd be more than happy to help. Thanks again for watching.